Amora Bain Carson. Jessica Bain Carson was convicted of capital murder as a party to the murder of her 13-month-old child by her boyfriend while he, over a period of 30 hours of physical torture, attempted to exorcise the demon he claimed resided within the child. Carson was sentenced to life without possibility of parole. The evidence is insufficient to show that she participated with her boyfriend in the murder. There is a fatal variance between allegata, unknown to the grand jury, and the proof at trial of cause of death. The evidence was insufficient to show the child, Amora, was strangled as alleged in the indictment. The court erred by failing to submit a requested jury instruction on mistake of fact. The court erred by failing to submit requested lesser-included offense instructions on criminally negligent homicide and reckless injury to a child. The imposed sentence, life without possibility of parole, violates the United States and Texas constitutions as cruel and unusual punishment, violative of the due process and equal protection clauses. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content. Legal sufficiency of the evidence is measured by the elements of the offense as defined by a hypothetically correct jury charge. The hypothetically correct jury charge sets out the law, is authorized by the indictment, does not unnecessarily increase the state's burden of proof or unnecessarily restrict the state's theories of liability, and adequately describes the particular offense for which the defendant was tried. In this case, Carson committed capital murder if she intentionally or knowingly murdered an individual under 6 years of age, or was criminally responsible as a party to the offense when the jury was so charged. Carson's arguments regarding the sufficiency of the evidence are threefold. Over a period of 30 hours, Carson's live-in boyfriend, Blaine Keith Milam, murdered Carson's daughter while purportedly exorcising the demon that he believed possessed her. Milam was convicted of capital murder in a separate trial and sentenced to death. Carson was present at all times inside the manufactured home during the time the murder occurred. Carson gave a recorded statement to Ranger Kenny Ray, which was played to the jury. She also testified at her trial. Carson was 17 when she met Milam in 2008. He proposed to her on prom night. During this time, Milam appeared to love Amora, Carson's child. Carson left her mother and brother and moved in with Milam. During that summer, Carson's family began to see her less often until, in October, she no longer had any contact with her mother and began to say that her mother killed her father. Carson became very withdrawn and unconcerned about her appearance. From outward appearances, Milam was making the decisions for them. Some evidence was presented that before Carson met Milam, she was neatly dressed and cared properly for her baby. Later in their relationship, Milam became a jealous and controlling person. Carson never left their apartment except with Milam. Friends no longer were seen coming over, and Carson was with Milam at all times, even during his work hours. Carson testified that Milam was very jealous of her. He began using her passwords to gain access to the internet and pretended he was her while communicating on the internet. Carson and Milam began using an Ouija board after Milam's father died. They began to talk to their deceased fathers by using the board. The Ouija board told Carson that her mother killed her father and the only way to get any peace was for her to do something about it. Carson believed their apartment was possessed by evil spirits, so they moved in with Milam's mother. Carson later became convinced that Milam was possessed by an evil spirit based on his expressions, tone of voice, and something that wasn't what I knew Blaine to be. Milam explained that after the demon came into him, he could talk to God, and he said Carson was causing this by lying to him. But during all this time when Milam was demon-possessed, he was absolutely fine with Amora. According to Carson, Milam loved Amora and was wonderful with her. By December 1, 2008, Carson testified that she no longer would question Milam because he told her God says there's things that you don't need to know right now. On December 1, 2008, Milam woke Carson and reported that Amora was possessed by a demon and was walking. She was too young to walk. Milam said that this occurred because Carson had not been honest with him and that God was tired of her lying to Milam. Carson asked Milam if there was something they could do, and Milam said God would show him how to do an exorcism. Carson did not understand what an exorcism was or how it was done. Milam told her that since God was showing him how to do the exorcism, it would help Amora. She and Milam were staying in the master bedroom, but Milam had Amora in the back bedroom to conduct the exorcism. As a result of the exorcism conducted by Milam, Amora suffered innumerable injuries that led to her death. Forensic evidence showed the child was beaten so severely that the multitude of fractures to her skull connected with each other like a jigsaw puzzle, and her brain was torn and severely damaged. An arm and leg had spiral fractures indicating they were twisted in two. Her torso was either struck by a blunt object or squeezed until the ribs and sternum broke, was riddled with no less than 24 distinct bite marks. Her head and face were so scraped and bruised that all the discrete injuries combined into one giant injury. Her liver was torn, an injury the forensic examiner had never seen before. The underside of her tongue was lacerated from blunt force trauma. She was also strangled. Because of all the injuries she sustained, it was not possible to determine which one was the final injury, and no specific, singular cause of death was determinable. Forensic testimony reflected that several of the injuries standing alone would have each been fatal. Police were called several hours later. When they arrived, the child was entirely stiff and in rigor. Carson concluded that the child was like Chucky or Pet Sematary horror movies, when the boy dies and comes back to life all evil and stuff, because the child was biting Blaine to where it was drawing blood on his hands. After Milam returned to the child, he took a picture of her and gave it to Carson. One of the child's eyes was stretched and warped down. Carson heard horrible cries from the child as Milam was attempting the exorcism. Once, he left the door open, and Milam told Carson the child ran out. Carson went into the back bedroom, and Milam told her that the child was under the bed. Milam ordered Carson to leave the bedroom. According to Carson, when she saw Amora, the child was not harmed. Milam told Carson that God told him the child got the hammer and was hitting herself on the head. Carson, acknowledging that she saw her child during this time, stated, "I saw her, but the first couple of times he didn't. I didn't want to see her. She thought it was not really her child, but the demon possessing her or whatever." They placed the child in a car seat and drove to Walmart. Milam got out and went into Walmart, and Carson waited until he returned and drove back home. Carson and Milam agreed that he was tempted to sell his soul to the devil and thereby gain the child's release from the demonic possession. Milam finally said that might be required of him, but Carson urged him not to be trapped by the devil that way. Milam agreed and went back into the bedroom with the baby to resume the exorcism. When asked if Milam told her how God had told him to actually do the final exorcism that sent the child to heaven, Carson answered that he did not tell her, but that she did not ask. "I just let him go in there, and I heard the demon cry out and scream out. I heard a lot of banging." At one point, Milam told Carson he used a rope to tie up the child to still the demon. Carson told Milam she would rather the child go to heaven now than spend a life with Satan having her soul. If you enjoyed from this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content. Thanks for watching.